Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Ted Betancourt, and I'd like to call the Peabody Public School Committee meeting to order. Okay. Today is February 25th, 2025, and we are starting our meeting tonight at 7:01 p.m. Almost 7 o'clock on the dot, but 7:01 is okay. And we have our full school committee here today, members Carpenter, Hockman, Olympio, Griffin Dunn, and Amico, and Mr. Swanson is joining us remotely this evening. We have our superintendent, Josh Fadala, with us, along with our assistant superintendent, Dr. Kelly Chase, and Sam Rippin, our school business manager. Couple of announcements before we begin the meeting. Our meeting is being broadcast to the millions at home watching on Peabody TV, and we have minutes from the meeting tonight being taken by our recording secretary, Laura Bowe. And anybody that would like to join us remotely during public participation, we will afford that opportunity, and just please, as always, raise your hand and we'll bring you into the meeting. We have the West School in the house today, and we're going to go to them momentarily. I'd like to first, though, start our meeting with a moment of silence and then do the Pledge of Allegiance, and have the West School students help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody could please stand for a moment of silence. All right, thank you. And students ready? Why don't you come on up here and yeah, that's a good idea. If there's no objection from the school committee, I wanted to go a little out of order today. We do have Dan Doucette, our city purchasing agent. He has to run to another meeting. I think it's something that we can take up very quickly. That should just be a few minutes. And then we're going to have the West School come forward for their presentation. So if everybody's okay with that plan, and then we'll go back to the regular agenda. Mr. Doucette, you want to come join us? And maybe if you could join us at John Swanson's spot over here. Dan's had a busy day today. He's running over to a meeting after this for the planning of our next year. 2026 will be the 250th anniversary of 1776, our Declaration of Independence. So we're planning a big event next year. So Dan will be helping with that. So
actually, we're going to redo Patriots Day on April 21st, and that's tonight's discussion. That's my other hat. Other than tens of millions of dollars worth of bids today, so
we have a bus contract on for today.
As a result of the last school committee meeting, I was asked to prepare a memo concerning the process, which I furnished to the superintendent. Basically, we had one qualified bid from the current contractor, Haley Bus. All their paperwork was in order. Sam and I had a good discussion with Haley after the bid, and that gets us to where your vote to authorize the mayor to execute a contract will result in the pricing that is going to be reflected in the next year's school budget.
Thank you, Mr. Doucette. Mr. Rippin, do you or Dr. Vidala any comments before we open it up to the school committee members?
I guess my only comment would be I appreciate having Dan on our side. I think I appreciate, I've worked with Healy Bus in previous district, and they do a fine job. I think between Dan and myself, we were able to execute a fair agreement for the upcoming 3 years plus 2 one-year renewals at our option. And so that gives peace of mind and certainty, and in my business, having certainty is a good thing.
Thank you, Mr. Rippin. Anything, Dr. Vidala, you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just for the committee, in your packet following the program of studies from the high school, you have a one-page memorandum from Mr. Doucette, the 17 pages of bid documents, and then there's a 2-page bid from Healy. And on the second page, you can see the authorization signed by Mark Healy from Healy Bus Company. So that contains all of the information, and what we'd like to do is just authorize Mr. Rippon to accept the bid on behalf of the committee and then to move forward and award the contract as such to Healy Bus Company.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vidal. Let's open up for questions. Mrs. Dunn, then Mr. Olympio.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank everyone involved with getting that material to us and the preparation of all those documents, because it gave me great confidence to read through it, to understand it, to see the whole thing, and I really am very, very grateful for that work. So thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we approve awarding the contract to Healy Bus under the terms that we're presented with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. You've heard the motion from Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Amico, to approve the contract. Any comments? Seeing no one, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the committee. I appreciate you taking me out of order and on to history.
No offense, but we're looking much more forward to the West School being here than you, so. So, Dr. Vidal, I'll turn it over to you for the introduction of the West School.
I'll just wait till we see him again.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're very pleased to welcome some students from the West School. We have Principal Broughton and Assistant Principal Fusilli here as well. I see a number of families in the audience, which is great. I also see a number of siblings, which is really wonderful to see. We don't always get the siblings here for support, so thank you to all of our siblings. And we'd like to welcome up the West School. I have a presentation that I'll show up, and we'd just like to ask you to make sure that you introduce yourself and tell us your name and what grade you're in. So please welcome the West School students.
Hi. Oh, sorry. I didn't know if it was going to echo. My name is Julie Broughton. I'm the principal at the West School. I'm here with our assistant principal, Mrs. Harolyn Fusil, several students and families from the West, and we're very happy to be here tonight. We want to share some of the wonderful things happening at our school. We tried to incorporate a winter theme, seeing hopefully it's towards the end of winter, but so one of our big things this year, one of our goals is to learn and grow in together. So we want to share some of those things that we're doing. If you want to go to the next slide. So one of our goals as a school has been to really deepen our bonds within the school community and develop a sense of belonging for everybody. And with that, teaching the children that they can all be thinkers, readers, writers, doers, friends, scientists, innovators, mathematicians, creators, and that we're all family at the West. So Mrs. Fusil went around the school and got some quotes from some of our students that are not here tonight, but that we wanted to share some with you about how they have a sense of belonging within the building.
And just to read a few of these, one of our kindergarten students, Krishnada, says, "I belong at the West School because I love the school and my teachers love me." Leica, another kindergarten student, "I belong at the West School because I am smart and kind." Ethan, a grade 2 student, "I have a lot of friends and my teachers help me when I need it, so I do a good job with my behavior." RJ from grade 3, "All my friends make me feel like I belong because they help me out when I need it." Merida, one of our 5th grade students, "All the students are kind and friendly and the teachers are nice, and I felt like I belonged and was welcomed when I started as a new student in 4th grade." Nico from grade 2, "I feel special at my school because everyone is kind and nice. Adults help kids when they need it." Priscilla, a grade 4 student, I feel like I belong because people know who I am and took the time to get to know me. And Aliana, a grade 2 student. I feel special at my school because I am smart and kind, and Mrs. Scott lets me shine bright. So I think those quotes capture our sense of belonging, our sense of community, and our sense of being a West School family.
One of the other things we wanted to highlight tonight was some of the work happening in the classroom. And so Mrs. Fusil came up with an enrichment write-in activity that incorporated two of our favorite things, ST Math and write-in. So we brought some students along to share their work with you. So just give me, so this is Zoe. I'm gonna just turn the mic over. So let me hold the mic.
Hi, my name is Joey Greer. I am 6 years old. I am in kindergarten. I would like to tell you this awesome story about Gigi Snow Day. Gigi the penguin went sledding in the snow.
Okay, so thank you, Zoe. So I will show you and show you a nice picture to go along with it. All right,
Zoe.
thank you, Zoe. Nice job.
Good job.
All right. Next, we have Ian. You want to stand, honey, or sit?
On Monday, Gigi came to my house. He said that he was coming to have a fun snow day. He took 3 snowballs, and I took 2 snowballs. We threw them at my mom. We threw 5 snowballs in total. Then we made a snowman. I took 2 big snowballs, and Gigi took 1 little snowball. We made them into the biggest snowman in the world. It had 3 balls of snow. We had a great day.
All right, thank you, Ian. Nice job. All right, next we have another first grader, Maisie.
Hello, my name is Maisie Charis, and I'm 7 years old, and I'm in first grade. Gigi woke up and looked out the window and saw snow. Gigi said, "I want to play outside in the snow." Gigi put on her snow gear. Then Gigi made a snowman. After, Gigi invited her friends over to play in the snow with her. After that, Gigi sat by the fire and drank hot cocoa. Then Gigi read a book and put her Christmas decorations and put up her Christmas decorations. Gigi ended her day by playing some ST Math. It was a great snowy day.
Nice job, Maisie. Next, we have second grader, Avon. You want to stand? Oh, I can push that back. Okay. Sorry, guys.
My name is Avon Bellucci, and I am a second grade student. I want to tell you about Gigi's snow day. Once upon a time, on a Monday morning, Gigi woke up and looked out his window. To his surprise, there was snow falling everywhere. Gigi ran to his mother and told her what he saw. Then he went out in the snow. He saw over 9 snowy mountains, jumped down 1 iceberg, and dove into the water. He caught 3 fish, then ran home with the fish in his beak and gave them to his mother. He went back into the snow and built a snowman. He called his friend over and they had a snowball fight. After he had gone inside for dinner, his mother was cooking the fish that he had caught earlier that day. He sat down in his chair and ate one good dinner. After he had a nice pop, then he snuggled in bed and got a good night's sleep. The next day, he built an igloo and had s'mores. By the fire. Then he went to a swing set and slid down the slide. He went inside and played Don't Break the Ice. He asked his mother, "What's for dinner?" His mother said soup. So Gigi ate the soup, read a good book, and went back to bed again. The next day, he went sledding and jumped on his trampoline with the snow. Then went inside, had hot cocoa, and watched football. What a fun day.
All right, nice job, Avon. Thank you, honey. All right. Next, we have third grader Sutton.
Hi, my name is Sutton Conley. I'm a third grader, and this is an awesome story about Gigi's snow day. This is about Gigi's snow day. I saw Gigi playing in the snow, so I joined him. Gigi and I counted snowflakes. There were 6 of them. We wanted the same number of snowflakes, so we separated them into 2 equal groups of 3. This way, we both got the same amount of snowflakes. We also built a snowman. We started by rolling the 3 balls of snow. Next, we got 3 rocks. We got 1 hat, 1 scarf, and finally grabbed 2 sticks. We also helped my mom shovel, but we only had 2 shovels. So Gigi and I had to buy 1 more shovel. So 2 plus 1 equals 3. So now we will have 3 shovels to help my mom. Now Gigi and I will head inside and make hot chocolate, but we only had 2 cups to make hot chocolate. We had to buy 1 more. 2 plus 1 makes 3. Now we had enough cups for Gigi, my mom, and I to have hot chocolate. It was a great snow day with some math, too.
All right, next we have Mia.
Hi, I'm Amy Colombo, and I am in 3rd grade. One snow day morning, Gigi woke up at 8 a.m. At 8:30 a.m., he ate breakfast. Once he felt full, it was 9 a.m., and Gigi wanted to make a snowman. So Gigi had 30 minutes to get ready. Once he was ready, he decided that he wanted to build a gigantic snowman. He needed 18 big snowballs to start. He cut 7 snowballs and placed them on top of each other. He needed 11 more snowballs to put on top of those. Gigi collected 1 big stick and snapped it in half. 1 little carrot, 2 eyes, and a hat. So he had 5 items to put on the snowman. After he built the snowman, he went sledding. He went down the hill 16 times. He had 5 more minutes to play, so he went down the hill 5 more times. That means he went down this hill 21 times in all. After all that fun, he was cold, so he walked home. When he got home, Gigi had some hot cocoa. He had 5 marshmallows to start, but he loves marshmallows, so he added 5 more. That gave Gigi a total of 10 delicious marshmallows in his hot cocoa. As Gigi was sipping his hot chocolate to warm up, he kept thinking all about his amazing snow day.
All right, next we have 5th grader Michael.
This is how Gigi's awesome snowy day adventure would go. Yawn, said Gigi. He looked outside to see almost 2 feet of snow. His friend Paco the tomato called him on the phone. He asked if Gigi would like to play in the snow with him. Of course I would, Gigi exclaimed. Meet me at the park. Gigi was on his way with his scarf on. We have 2 feet of snow, Gigi said to himself, and we're getting 5 more inches of snow. In total, that means we're getting 29 inches of snow, Gigi said. Gigi arrived at the park and he heard his friend Paco say hi from over by the park bench. Do you want to build a snowman with me? Sure, Gigi replied. All of a sudden, a huge gust of wind came and blew snow off a tree and onto Gigi. Ha, you look like a snow penguin, said Paco. Gigi yelled, get me out of here. Paco brushed the snow off of him and asked, do you want to build a snowman now? Yes, how about we use your head of our snowman? Gigi said as he rolled 2 big snowballs. Get on top, Gigi said. They made a tomato snowman. No, said a voice from not too far away. Gigi and Paco went to see who it was. It was a little fish. What's the matter? Paco asked. My friend Flake the polar bear fell into the water, said the fish. Don't worry, Gigi replied. I will go over and help her so you 2 can play. Gigi dove into the water, grabbed Flake, and got out of the water. He told Flake, you're safe now. Thank you so much, Flake said. How about we have a snowball fight, suggested Gigi.
All right, And Juliana.
One day, Gigi woke up and looked outside his bedroom window. It's snowing, Gigi said. He put on his hats, gloves, coat, and boots and went outside in the snow. He went to pick up his friends. Gigi, Polar, and Foxy all frolicked in the snow until Foxy found something buried. Gigi, Polar, and Foxy brushed the snow off the item and found out that it was a box. The box was locked and attached to it was a note. The note read to whoever's reading this: do you like winter? Do you like snow? Hot chocolate, adventure, and spending time with your friends? If so, keep reading. I have a once-in-a-lifetime adventure for you. Inside this box is a surprise for whomever figures out the code. My first equation for you is what is 42 divided by 7? I can do this one, Gigi said. I did that at school. Gigi wrote the math problem down on the paper with the note and solved it. 42 divided by 7 is 6, Gigi said. 6 must be the first digit in the code. So Gigi put it in the box. But how will we find the next clue? Polar asked. At 6 o'clock, there is a party up in the park, Foxy said. Gigi, Polar, and Foxy all agreed that they should go to the park. They went to the park, and Gigi immediately saw another note on the slide. The note had another equation, and this one was an easy one. The equation was 10 times 77. That's mental math, Foxy said. It's 770. How do we know what number to put in? Gigi asked. On the note, it says to put in the number in the tens place, so we would put in the number 7, Foxy said. So Polar put in the number 7 and read the last part of the note. Your next clue will be in the library. Gigi, Polar, and Foxy ran to the library with the box. Polar found a note on the bookshelf. This time, the equation was 12 times 12. He said, 12 times 12 is 144, Foxy said. It says to use the number in the ones place, Polar said. Foxy put 4 in the lock and it opened. Inside was hot chocolate and hot cocoa mix. Gigi, Polar, and Foxy all walked until they got to Gigi's house. When they got there, they made hot cocoa, ate chocolate, and watched movies all night long.
All right, thank you, Julia. All right. So the next few slides just show how we displayed the work within the school and highlighted some of the student work. And the next slide will just have the list of students that just shared to thank them. And then thank you guys for having us. We've enjoyed coming to share what we're doing, and we were excited to be here. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and to the students, those stories were amazing, and thank you for sharing those with us today. They were wonderful to listen to, and so happy to have the West School here and have all of you here today. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all your teachers and everybody at the West School, which does a terrific job. Any comments or questions for our students or for our West School team? Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you. This was wonderful. You all did a beautiful job on your stories, not only on the writing and figuring it out and creating it, but reading it to us. This was really very nice. Do any of you want to be an author when you grow up? Write books? There's potential. There is. Those were great. Nicely done. Thank you.
So I am incredibly impressed with your writing skills, and I love that you incorporated math in it as well, because I was once a math teacher, and so that was my favorite subject. But the writing is really incredible, and it's a huge credit to you and to your family, so I'm sure helped out, and to your teachers. I know that writing is something that we've really been working on, and to see our first graders already halfway through first grade writing paragraphs and just the detail that we have in the third, fourth, and fifth grade is really impressive. And to see, a complete sentence halfway through kindergarten really is impressive. And I think it's a credit to all of you. So we're very proud of you. We'd like you to come up for a photo. I think what I'd like to do is put the West School picture back up on the screen, and maybe we can have you line up here in front, and we'll have your parents come around and we can take some photos with the mayor. Would that be nice? All right, why don't you come up?
We do have a couple more special guests today, Ms. Randall, so we wanted to, if no objection, we'll continue to stay out of order and go right to item 2 under Superintendent's Report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Principal Randall and our Guidance Director, Mr. Quist, here to talk about the program of studies for next year at Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. So without further ado, I'll turn it right over to you, Ms. Randall.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's been a little bit of a time that I've been away, so good to see you all, and glad to be here tonight. It's going to be a hard act to follow, but we'll try. All right, so we're just going to jump right in. We don't have too many new items tonight. I know last year when we were here for our program of studies, we had probably double the amount of courses to potentially add to our program, and it's significantly less this year. But with that said, just to kind of give you a reminder of how we even come up with potential new courses that might go into a program of studies, it really starts at the department level. So all of our department heads and directors meet with their departments at least once a week for professional learning community meetings, and they're always talking about this. And so if any department members have any ideas of courses just kind of based on student interest that they know has arisen, or maybe it's a need, maybe there's a void that we have that we want to fill, they bring that up to their department head or director, who then in turn brings it to our entire leadership team. So we do some vetting through our whole leadership team, which is composed of all of our high school administrative team, all of the department heads and directors. We come together once a week for leadership, and we always set some time aside to bring up any new ideas for program of studies. I think it's important to bring it up in the room of all the content areas when we're all together. That way, somebody might bring up a course in the social studies department, but somebody in the ELA department might say, oh, actually, we already have an elective that sort of meets that need. So we just want to make sure we're not double dipping or offering courses that might cancel out another content's offering. So we do that to vet things as a leadership team, and we vote to move courses forward. And then as an administrative team, we then kind of make some final say to what's going to be brought to all of you. So just to know that this has been a thoughtful process already to this point. It hasn't just been any one-on-one conversations and making decisions in a vacuum. So with all that said, with a little bit of the backstory, we've got a couple science courses that I'm excited to tell you about tonight. One of them is called Conceptual Chemistry, and the other is Geologic Science. A couple of business courses, Social Media Marketing and Business Apparel. We'll talk about those. In social studies, I know last year when I brought forward one of our new creative electives, the Pirates, Warriors, and Crime, and we talked about that, a lot of you were very interested in maybe wanting to take that elective. So that's been a successful launch this past year, but we'll talk about another new idea that the department had, the medieval and early modern world. Wellness brought forward a new elective to consider, and that's Intro to Weight Training. I'm excited to talk to you about that course tonight. And might be my most exciting one on the list, saved it for the last here. In the World Language Department, we would love to offer an elective course that's an introduction to ASL. And that is to hopefully be a spring point off into a whole ASL program, ASL 1 and 2, and potentially beyond. Many high schools run that very successfully as a language option. So we'll dive right in. We'll go on back to science. So the first course on the list, Conceptual Chemistry. This came up from obviously the science department, but science department head Emily Ferrolito brought this to the team because the science department was feeling that, especially in chemistry, as many of you may know, chemistry is a very math-heavy science. And what the department was finding was that over the last several years, there have been more students that have kind of struggled a little bit with the mathematical component to really find a lot of success even in the CP level chemistry class. In our science department, this is really key because, as you know, and we're actually going to look at it later in our presentation tonight, as part of our graduation requirements, students students need to pass 2 years of science, and depending on what the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education may decide for future graduation requirements, it may even rise to needing a third year of science, particularly a lab science. In our science department, a lot of our course offerings beyond chemistry and a lot of our elective courses in the department have chemistry as a prerequisite course. And again, just kind of finding a little bit of a struggle and feeling like our numbers could rise with the amount of students finding success, particularly in chemistry, and then being able to access some of those higher level science courses and electives. And so we wanted to just open up a potential new pathway for that. If you remember also, last year I brought some data along and spent a good amount of time talking with you about a few other courses that we launched very successfully at the high school this past year, and that was algebra applications, after successfully running an Algebra 2 applications course, and it was a lot more hands-on, exploratory type of classroom environment to really dig into the content with those. And last year we also launched a Foundations of Biology course as well, and ran that as actually a double block for half of the year to really make sure that for those incoming 9th grade students that maybe, we did the same thing for algebra applications, if you remember. We ran it as a, and geometry applications, thank you, Mr. Quist. We also worked that in as well. We ran these applications courses and this foundational course to have an extra semester of work for students in the year. So it's a full year course, but one semester it's a double block. Again, really allowing kids to dig a bit deeper into the content. The teachers that teach those courses rave about them and say that they're very successful. The students are finding success. The students are enjoying the courses too. And we feel that it's going to definitely transition to continuing to see our pass rate, especially in 9th grade. If you looked at our school report card just for this past year, you saw that we did make we're making increases in that 9th grade pass rate, and we feel like these courses are only going to continue to help with that. So back to conceptual chemistry, it's along those same type of lines where it's still going to require the math, it's still going to require algebraic skills to be applied, but it's just not going to be as heavy into the math. It would still be a college prep course, but students, as you see here, would really explore the concepts of chemistry through labs first. If you think about how students may traditionally go into a lab science learning the content, and then let's dig in and do a lab and explore this. Conceptual chemistry would kind of flip things around and say, let's get our hands dirty with some science first and really dig in that way and explore the concepts through the labs and through the hands-on process to really dig into the learning. It's a little less emphasis, as I mentioned already, on mathematical aspects of chemistry, but the algebraic skills are still necessary. Because in those courses that are going to follow in the science department where chemistry is a prerequisite, we're still going to need those skills. And as I mentioned also, it allows more students, we believe, to just be able to access those advanced electives in the science department. And that is one of our goals as a high school too, is to continue to get more students access to advanced coursework. And on the school report card, again, that's an area we're seeing small increases in advances, but we still lag behind the state in that, in more students accessing advanced coursework, which is basically courses kind of, if you think about math, it would be courses beyond Algebra 2, that type of thing, and some of those upper electives. So a course like this, we feel would allow more of our students to access some of those scientific courses beyond chemistry as well. If you want to back up just really quickly, Geologic Science, CP, is just adding to some half-year elective options we have in the science department. We actually don't have a lot of half-year elective options in science, so this would just open up a little bit of a door to that. We don't have any earth science type of course, believe it or not, at the high school, so this would actually introduce that with a Geologic Science CP. All right. Jumping over to business. So social media marketing. We're excited about this one as well. in this day and age where, tech is almost like an 11th finger on everybody's hand, it's not just about the use of technology, but using technology appropriately and effectively, especially in this day and age of AI. I know that that's going to be a continued challenge in a way, but also it's gonna open some great doors for us as well. We know that, just kind of, I feel in some ways it's kind of like 1993 all over again, and where here's the internet. But we know AI is gonna be, we know it's gonna be a great tool, but with that comes great responsibility as well, and just thinking about the technological world, and this one specifically with social media, and really promoting, again, like I said, appropriate tech use, along with effective tech use. It's a half-year elective, going to be open to all grades, again, through our business department with that. The business apparel class is specific for our IP pathway. As you know, we have an innovation pathway in business at the high school that has been established. It is in its first year of launch this year. So this business apparel course, think bringing back a physical school store. I know several times a year we open an online store. It's typically a fundraising effort by like maybe one of the classes at school. But this would be an opportunity to bring back another physical school store space. We recently, just through grants for our IP pathway, we have some real state-of-the-art equipment that recently just came into the school, and it's for creating, it's engravers, it's printing, it's creating sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs, all kinds of things, all kinds of fun things. And so this business apparel course is really required in the IP pathway, and now we'll be able to offer it. It gives hands-on experience in that designing and producing and selling merchandise, for students. It'd be also students getting the skills in business operations, as you see here, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, and they would be able to be running a school store inside Peabody High School once again through this. All right, so the medieval and early modern world. This was brought forward by the Social Studies Department. I actually want to jump to that second bullet that's up here. Our Social Studies Department head, Don Mason, brought this up from the department because they found that what students leave middle school with, as far as the content that's covered there, and where typically our students come into 9th grade and they do come into U.S. History 1, but U.S. History 1, we have U.S. History 2. As you know, we also offer World History, which kind of digs back, but there still is a gap of time. So between what students cover in middle school and what would get picked up in World History, there's a bit of a gap there. And so this course, Medieval and Early Modern World, would actually cover that gap in content between middle school curriculum to the high school world history course. Our ELA department head noted this would be really helpful for some of the ELA courses too, in the historical aspects of what they read and study about in some of those courses as well. Kind of would help to fill in some gaps there. It would be around the medieval and early modern eras, as you can see there, 500 to 1500 CE, beyond the scope of Europe, studying social classes, government, economics, arts and sciences, and religions of multiple spaces around the globe outside of Europe as well. So this would be a half-year elective to offer in the Social Studies Department as well. All right. And in wellness, the Intro to Weight Training class. So right now, of course, our students, we have some electives in our wellness program. Students take Wellness 1, 2, and 3 by requirement. Wellness 1, Wellness 2, Wellness 3 over the course of, freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And that's a little more of your traditional physical education for a quarter and some health and wellness for a quarter combined into a course. Outside of that, we have some other elective courses in the wellness department, but nothing specific to just getting into weight training. As you know, we a couple summers ago now, we sort of redid our whole weight training area at the high school with new equipment, redid the floor in there. It's really looking like a nice space. typically, it's a lot of our athletic teams that are getting the most use out of it, and not so much just our day-to-day health and wellness classes. This class particularly would not be for the the student that's already knows how to use equipment or looking for advanced techniques or anything of that sort. This truly would be to introduce beginners to proper technique, how to use equipment, truly to be a lifelong activity. When we spoke about this at the leadership team meeting, I kind of gave the idea of we could have a culminating field trip or something like that, where maybe we could partner with the Y or even Lifetime Fitness or somewhere around where we could take the group of students there to, okay, now you know the equipment, now let's talk about getting an application filled out. Maybe we can get a little 3-month membership. So now you don't have that intimidation about walking in. You want to get into health and fitness, but gym intimidation is a real thing, walking in if you're not kind of used to that environment. So a course like this could really introduce, and we would make sure to keep it true to this sense of really being an introductory course, so students feel safe to access it, and then really could have that lifelong health and wellness from a course like this. It also adheres to the recently updated Mass curriculum frameworks when it comes to health and wellness, so it would fit right in. And then finally, for tonight, introduction to ASL. So as I mentioned at the outset, we've really, Dr. Vidala and I have spoken several times about the want to get ASL, American Sign Language, as another option in our world language department in the near future. We would love that. So we'd like to sort of kick things off a little bit by running an introduction to ASL class next year, which would be a half-year elective, and we're looking to even hopefully just run a couple of sections of it to get it off the ground a little bit. It would combine basic American Sign Language, ASL, and deaf culture, providing students with a beginning understanding of both linguistic and cultural aspects of the deaf community. I really want to highlight this. It's a true introduction course. The actual ASL students will learn from this introductory course will be quite minimal. And it really will be more about the culture and the empathy around just people with disabilities, and specifically, the deaf community, and providing students with a foundation of deaf studies while promoting that awareness and sensitivity towards the community. So we're excited about this. We do have a teacher at school, which we're who's very passionate about helping us get this off the ground, and that was kind of the catalyst to push to want to do this next year and not wait on it. So this is one that I'm very, very excited about to bring to the high school. All right, and so before moving forward at all, we'll pause and see if there's anything I've already discussed that you want to go back or have any questions about.
Well, thank you, Ms. Randall. Thank you for bringing these offerings to us, and for the rationale and reasoning behind it. That was very well done. Open it up for questions. Mr. Hockman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Principal Randall.
Sure.
I hope you were excited as we were to see some of your future students who were here from the West School earlier. No, thank you for bringing these course offerings to us, and Mr. Quist and your team, as well as the staff and teachers at the high school, for being so thoughtful in the development of these programs. I think they're all extremely exciting. I just want to be very clear. I see that we're going to add a language, American Sign Language. I just want to make sure that we're clear that we're not eliminating Italian as a course offering, because I don't want to vote on something that is going to get me in trouble.
Yes, no, there's no eliminations.
Yeah.
This is just, and it's a soft addition. And the hope is that a year from now, I'm sitting here talking about a full implementation of an ASL 1 course that's a full year. But yeah, no, soft opening, but nothing getting eliminated.
Yeah, my apologies. You were a medium for a joke, so thank you for allowing me to do that. But no, thank you. I'm very excited about all of these, and I'm supportive of them, and I'm happy that we're having these conversations on an annual basis.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Mr. Olympio?
Thank you. This is really exciting. You make me want, it's like Back to the Future. I would love to go back to school. But the ASL, I'm really excited about because there's also too, there's a lot of students on the autism spectrum that actually use sign language and ways to communicate. So that's going to be extremely helpful for the community. So I just want to thank you for that.
You're welcome, and that's a great point. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. I wanted to bring Mr. Swanson in.
Evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. Randall, Mr. Quist. Again, because as my counterparts have said, thank you again for bringing these to us. Very thoughtful course offerings, the way that you're developing the courses. I'm going to go back into chemistry, the conceptual chemistry CP. Very much follows your trend from last year with your mathematics. It's enabling those that might struggle to have exposure and set them up for the future and success as they go forward. And I appreciate that very much. I do have some questions I'd like to get with you at some point to understand the, I'm going to support this, but I'd like to get together with you to understand the lab versus text type and how that moves. It's curiosity I have and how that would progress. But I definitely like to learn about that. And the way that you lay these out also for those that are watching and listening, you can see these springboards. You did mention, I looked at your geologic science. First thing I thought was there are no earth sciences. It's a very big thing that's personal to me. I think as you set this up, moving that forward, the ASL offering, this is a springboard for future as well. And I very much appreciate the way that you, your team, Mr. Quist, think about the offerings and the modifications you're bringing in. So again, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Swanson.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Miko?
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you, Mr. Quist and Ms. Randall, for being here. This is great. There's something for everyone here. And I just want to personally thank you for, you make our job easier. You do. And I know that doesn't go unnoticed here. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your empathy. And in a few years, we're going to be in a new building, so that's very exciting. But the other thing I wanted to say is our students who are coming through PBD Veterans Memorial High School, they're ready for the next chapter. So that's just an incredible feeling for a parent, a school committee member, or anyone from the community. So thank you and your staff for doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Mrs. Dunn?
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Randall, Mr. Quist, thank you for coming. And this is really very, very positive, very supportive of our students. I, like everyone else, I'm thrilled about the addition of the ASL introduction. It has always impressed me how often our students with the Student Advisory Board would ask for ASL, or students even at Student Government Day would ask for that. So I'm really glad to see that come up. Thank you. I have just a couple of other questions. The conceptual chemistry, I understand the background of that. Do we still offer AP chemistry for our students? Okay, because I know they're different. Yeah, thank you. And then, let's see, the social studies. It really does, this all does sound interesting, honestly. But I was wondering, I know it's, it's a half year, it's an elective, so that's great. But as far as covering the gap in the content from the middle school curriculum to the high school, is there a way of increasing the curriculum at the middle school level? Or where do we need to put that information into the flow of the students at the Higgins or at the high school level? And when we find that out, I'd like to make sure that we do put that information in front of our students, because this medieval and early modern world is an elective, but going forward, if it's something that they are going to need for their own knowledge, I do think we should find out how to improve that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't have the answer for that, unfortunately. I know our high school courses follow mass curriculum frameworks. So as far as the world history, the content of our high school world history course is pretty standard across mass curriculum frameworks. But I can't speak to the, of course, where 8th grade history courses or social studies might leave off or why. But I can't imagine that the city of Peabody would be unique with whatever potential year content gap there might be. I can't imagine we're unique to that, but it is an interesting thing to look into a little bit more.
You're right, because we do follow the state law, we follow all the curriculums, so finding that type of a gap probably would affect schools across the state, and it would be helpful for all of them to understand that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you, Ms. Randall, Mr. Quist. Thank you for coming. And I really appreciate the thorough explanation you had of all of these additions. I'm excited for all of them. I appreciate that they're up to date, they're current, they're things that our students are hopefully going to want to take. When you see things like medieval times, I think that's another catch, like you got us before with the pirate one. The social media marketing, those type of things are things that I think that are current and students will be interested in. I want to touch on the ASL. You must have known how much we would love it. We've spoken about it before. Mr. Olympio touched on the fact that that's something that children with autism, that works with them. But I also wanted to point out, for any of your students that are looking into early childhood, that is also another way that early childhood teachers communicate with infants even, more and those type of things. So ASL expands so many ways. So many people can use it. So I really do appreciate that it's an elective, and I'm looking forward to hearing that it's growing, hopefully, and that is something that we can expand upon. And thank you for your time again. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Dr. Vidal.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we're going to get into a little bit into the graduation requirements. And I just wanted to add, we're very excited about ASL. And today the Board of Education met, the State Board of Education met to discuss graduation requirements. This is something that's going to be ongoing. You'll hear about it as a school committee. All the school committees will be asked to take this up. Right now, we don't have a language as a requirement. In Mass Core, a requirement for graduation is 2 years of a world language. So I am going to be on the front line to ask that the state include American Sign Language as a language if they're going to make it a requirement. And so this is a proactive approach that Ms. Randall and Mr. Quist and I have spoken about, that we want to have this set in our curriculum and ready to go, so that if we are required to offer 2 years of a language, that locally we can offer 2 years of American Sign Language, and it's more accessible to all of our students. And that is something that I will be promoting at the state level as well, to have them include that as a language. If there is a requirement, to allow students to be able to take ASL and have that be a requirement to meet that obligation. There may be other additions to our local requirements. Right now, we don't follow Mass Core. It would be an additional year of mathematics, an additional year of science. And so the offerings that Ms. Randall is doing is proactively creating pathways for all students to be able to meet those requirements, and not closing doors for kids that may struggle in a certain way, or specific populations that are required to take other courses. This is just opening the doors, and we are setting ourselves up that if there were a state-imposed graduation requirement above and beyond what we have, we will be set to have that because of this proactive approach. So I just wanted to give a lot of credit to our leadership team at the high school, because we're on the forefront of this, and we're making sure we have everything in line, so that we know we have a large number of offerings and that kids can take, especially those upper level courses, but we want to make sure they're accessible to all of our students, and I think this really does that. And so I give a lot of credit to the team here. There's a couple slides here about the graduation requirements, but I wanted to insert that in there because I thought it was a good time.
Mr.
Could I just jump in for 1 second with the ASL? Over 95% of colleges and universities will accept 2 years or more of ASL as in lieu of their world language requirement. And So yes, we're moving in that direction, offering more. And right now, to Dr. Vidala's point on MassCore, less than 50% of the districts in the state currently follow MassCore, but that could be where they're going, and it's really good that we're starting to really look at that and continue to challenge our students in a productive way.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mr. Quist, and thank you, Dr. Vidala, too, because I completely agree. And that's what we're trying to do and prepare for, is all avenues. So just briefly, I know Mr. Quist was here in front of you last month in January to kind of go over a bit of already what we're doing, what our current graduation requirements are, and was talking a little bit about competency determination measures. And that was shortly, of course, on the after the heels of the election and, kind of with MCAS going away as a graduation requirement and kind of where are we going with that. So for graduation requirements now, is just a reminder, we don't have full MassCore in play, but our current students are required to complete 4 years of English, which is 20 credits, 3 years of math, 2 years of science, 3 years of social studies, including a U.S. history, 7.5 credits worth of wellness, and overall, and that gives you your required course credits, and in addition to that, 47.5 elective course credits for a total of 115 credits to graduate. And additionally, and it was you don't have to go back, but in that little box it just noted we still have the requirement of 40 hours of community service as well, that we require for graduates as well. So just a note here that, and I made it a little bit earlier as well, but all of the Peabody Public Schools students who complete our local graduation requirements, which you just saw on the previous screen, will by default have completed a course of study that is aligned with Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. We, of course, will continue to follow guidelines that are set out by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as it relates to any modified competency determination process or measures, any updates. Of course, we will, everyone in this room I know will be right on top of that. And there was a modified determination, of course, that was set up coming out of COVID, when there was that little bit of time where we did have a couple of classes come through that weren't required to have the MCAS during that odd time. And so there was some modified determination measures set up there. So we're sort of going off of that modified competency determination from just a few years back. And it's a bit on the next slide as well, just to remind you, and I know Mr. Quist again had gone over this in more detail last month when he was here. But the modified competency determination measures that had come up during COVID times were that in ELA and math, students would need to have successfully earned credit by completing a course or courses aligned to the curriculum frameworks in the relevant subject matter. So, for example, you think about math, and I know Mr. Quist, when he was here previously, did display a whole list of potential courses that would fit the bill there for ELA and math, such as algebra, geometry, all the courses that we offer and that our students do take as part of our graduation requirements already. In science, students will just need to have successfully earned credit by completing a course or courses aligned to curriculum frameworks in one of the 4 tested disciplines: biology, chemistry, an introductory physics course, or a technology engineering course. So of course we do offer these courses, and it's what our students take to fulfill their graduation requirements. So it's just another way to tamper down, if you will, that students are getting these requirements in with the courses that we offer. And so our recommendation would be basically at this point in time that our graduation requirements and our course offerings that we have at the high school would satisfy the graduation requirement.
And we include that because we know that the committee will need a policy prior to the graduation, and we'll probably do that sometime in the spring. So possibly a late March or early April meeting. We'll precede the meeting with Ms. Dunn's Quality and Standards. We'll have some language drafted for a first read. We'll bring it to the committee. I know previously it was discussed that we could explore the option of providing a sticker on the diploma, which is similar to, we have the seal of biliteracy. We could offer a sticker for an MCAS designation. I know that was brought up. Marge Marcarelli has been working on a design. It looks very similar to the seal of biliteracy. It's very professional. So when we're ready for that, we'll have some mock-ups, and we'll do so in time that if that were something we would want to add as an additional designation for our students that pass MCAS, they could get an MCAS sticker on their diploma. We could explore that, and the committee could include that, if you will. As for tonight, we would be looking for a vote to approve the program of studies as presented so that we can get that out and kids can do course selection. And if there's any other questions, we certainly can take those up now.
Thank you. Open it up to the school committee members. Mrs. Dunn?
No question, but I'll make a motion that we approve the curriculum changes that have been presented to us this evening. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Amico. Hearing no comments, we'll open it up for roll call, please.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Mr. Mayor, we could go back to the regular agenda. We have 2 more items on the superintendent's report that we have 3 items that we can do in the regular course of business if we want to go back. I know we have minutes and things to approve. So thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hockman?
Yes, thank you. Before Mr. Quist and Ms. Randall leave us, I know that we're going to create a policy for graduation requirements, so through the mayor to Mr. Quist, can you please, sometime before we take that policy up, can you please give us some sort of data on how many kids have difficulty meeting the community service requirement of 40 hours? And also what the community service requirement is in schools around the region. And my focus on this is to increase the community service requirement, but I don't want to do so without data that would give me some information as to whether or not that's a realistic or a good idea.
I'll be happy to do that. I can tell you as of today, and when I entered here approximately 8 years ago, community service was a requirement. We have never not had a student not graduate. Some of them more kicking and screaming, for lack of a better word, towards the end. But we have students coming in and, for the most part, beginning their community service hours right from the get-go. But I will check with through the different guidance director groups if they have a community service requirement and what the number of hours are.
And while you're doing that, if you don't mind, I don't think we have any language that determines when those community service hours are performed. So in other words, a student can fulfill them all within one academic year and go through 3 years of high school without performing any community service and still fulfilling our community service requirement, which I think certainly meets our policy by the letter, but not by the spirit. So can you see if there are any other school districts that break down that community service requirement or a minimum community service hour requirement by academic year?
I'll certainly do that and have that information probably within a week to Dr. Vidala.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to the agenda. Item number 2, minutes from the February. Yeah, I think that date is incorrect. February 11, 2025, regular school committee meeting. I'd open those up for discussion and/or a vote.
Motion to approve the regular school committee meeting minutes of February 11, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Hockman to approve the minutes from the February 11, 2025 regular school committee meeting, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Present.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We do have 4 warrants for approval tonight. Turn it over to you, Mr. Olympio.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5953 in the amount of $913,805.31, dated February 25th, 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion made by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter for approval of warrant number 5953. Roll call vote for approval, please.
Mrs. Carpenter? Yes. Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5958 in the amount of $3,145,072.25, dated February 25th, 2025, subject to audit.
Okay, thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter for approval of warrant number 5958. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5962 in the amount of $996,937.83, dated February 25th, 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter for approval of warrant number 5962. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miko, sorry.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5963 in the amount of $14,095, dated February 25th, 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter for approval of warrant number 5963. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Next, we'll go to item number 4, continued business. We have one item under continued business tonight. Mrs. Dunn, I'll turn it over to you for Peabody Veterans Memorial High School update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Currently, we are planning a meeting for the school building committee sometime in March. We haven't set a date yet. And the next action item to go forward will be for, actually for the mayor, to bring a request to the city council seeking funds for a feasibility study. And after that is taken care of, we'll move into the next phase of the project. So we're moving right along, and things look very good. I also wanted to say, and this relates back to a topic we just discussed about the curriculum at the high school, and as the superintendent said about the Mass Corps, this really is the time for us as a school committee and as a school district to be looking at the curriculum that we're providing at the high school, because we're building a brand new school that will be designed for our program. And this is how we can really move forward, by modernizing the curriculum that we have and making sure that we're able to provide updated classes for our students, including the facilities that they might need. So if there's specific teaching equipment that's needed for ASL, that's something we will definitely be talking about when we talk about the design of the building. School store, that's a perfect example to show you that that's something probably with the CTE department, but we need to look at that. And even with math and science, we definitely need to make sure that we are designing the building to be able to move that curriculum forward, because the current building was built for the program that was in place 50 years ago. This is our chance to really modernize everything, not just the bricks and mortar. So I'm putting that out there to give you fair warning. We got a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Okay, we will go back to item number 5 for the remaining items under the superintendent's report. Dr. Vidala?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So item number 4 under the superintendent's report is a side letter of agreement with the PBD Federation of Teachers. On February 11th, before our last school committee meeting, the Finance Subcommittee met in executive session with the Teachers Union as part of our collective bargaining negotiations, and those are moving along very nicely, and we're very pleased with that. Part of the discussion was around the calendar, the start date, and some of the requirements that we have where students start after Labor Day, which is pushing the end date of the last day of school well into the month of June. So the Finance Subcommittee has proposed some language that would allow us to bring students back before Labor Day, embedding our professional development during the school year, which from an educational standpoint is a great benefit to our educators, so that it's a little bit spread out. It's not so much front-loaded, and we'll have our professional development built in to the calendar, and that way it'll sort of be an ongoing thing instead of everything up front. So we have some proposed language that the subcommittee has worked on, and the Finance Subcommittee has agreed with the Teachers Union. This would be a side letter, a one-year agreement. We have the proposed calendar that would go along with that, and then as part of collective bargaining, it would be ratified once the negotiations have been settled. But I would like to thank Eric Blake, the PFT president, for being proactive and being collaborative and wanting to get this out to our staff and our families ahead of time around, you know, what could be a proposed calendar. So what is interesting is that the calendar is the school committee's purview, but there are contract limitations that prohibit us from starting before Labor Day. And so that ties the hands of the committee at times. So this contract language supports educationally where we'd like to go, and it allows the committee to propose a calendar where we start 3 school days before Labor Day, and then we would potentially get out here for next year. June 18th would be the tentative last day of school. So I'm happy to answer any questions about what was discussed there and what is in this side letter, and if it is the will of the committee to follow the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee, we would ask for a vote on this evening to direct me to sign the side letter of agreement and to propose the 2025-26 calendar as presented. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that from any committee members.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. Mr. Hockman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the Finance Subcommittee and to the bargaining team from Unit A, I believe it was, for the hard work that you're all going through now and trying to get ahead of some of these issues. And I have a pretty good memory as to the current bargaining agreement. And I also agree with Dr. Vidala that the calendar remains our purview. I like the collaboration that's taken place in the recent past, at least with the staff, the bargaining units, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the administrators, and so forth, in terms of the courtesies that have been afforded to each side, and that we share our thoughts prior to voting on a final proposed calendar. That being said, none of that in the past has been done with a formal side agreement or any documents that are exchanged between the parties and voted on by either the membership of the bargaining unit or the school committee, which represents the school district. And this is a substantial deviation from that practice, and I'm fearful that it, even though it's a side agreement and it talks about sunsetting at the end of the 25-26 school year, I'm very leery that this becomes some sort of past practice or some sort of expectation moving forward. Like I said, I am happy with the courtesies that have gone on, and I want to continue those courtesies. I want to work with all of the staff members, employees, whether they're union members or non-union members so that we can work together and try to develop a calendar that fulfills the needs of as many people as possible. The current bargaining agreement allows us, or was something that was negotiated a long time ago, before I got on the school committee, that dictates when the school year starts, depending upon when Labor Day falls. And for this particular school year, Labor Day, it looks like falls on September 2 or 1, or something early, which would, under the current bargaining agreement, require school to start after Labor Day. And what's being put before us as a proposal, and I don't know, what that means, because at some point we're going to vote on a calendar, and I don't know if we're contractually limited in what we can do based upon this side agreement or not. But this side agreement that is before us has school starting the Tuesday before Labor Day, which is a substantial deviation from the contractual language in the current bargaining agreement. That's concerning, at least immediately concerning. Perhaps it's not after it's fleshed out and we have some conversations about it, but that's a substantial deviation. I understand Dr. Vidala's point about professional development, and that being embedded within the school year is a better educational practice. And I defer to you for that. We've had those conversations. I'm not an educator, and I defer to you and to, frankly, the union representatives, because they are educators. They know that better than I do. The current bargaining agreement would have teachers returning the week before Labor Day, going through some professional development, and then some time, I think, to prepare themselves for the upcoming school year. The other part of this that I'm a little concerned with is we're also under the current bargaining agreement, we would start school the Tuesday after Labor Day. Here we're starting the Tuesday before Labor Day, but taking Friday, Monday, and Tuesday off as school days. So we're now taking a position where I don't know what sort of camps are usually over by this point, but there's some sort of childcare for at least our younger students that is going to be interrupted a week earlier for 3 days, and then there's a need for childcare again for at least 2 days. Presumably people aren't working on Labor Day, but the Friday and the Monday, the Friday before Labor Day and the Tuesday after Labor Day, which is a concern for me, and I appreciate that we're talking about this early. If the will of the committee is to adopt this, then it gives families time, I guess, to figure that out. I'm just trying to stay with the language here. We talk about in here that there's going to be a modification of, before I get to the modification of paragraph F talks about day school session shall be suspended on Saturdays, Sundays, and dates not specifically listed, or quote, no school, or quote, not in session, in subsection F1 of the school calendar. I didn't see subsection F1, so I don't know what that means.
That language is currently in the contract, it's just carried over.
Okay.
Yeah, that language is not changed from the current contract.
Okay. However, in an emergency situation, we're going to have, we could potentially have school on Saturday or Sunday, right? If there's, we hit blizzard after blizzard after blizzard and we're closing school, we hit 15 snow days, we have to make the 180 at some point, and we have to make the 180 before June 30th. So at some point, we may have school on Saturday. But if you're saying that language is already in the contract,
That's historical
okay.
language.
Then that doesn't concern me as much. We're talking about modifying Article 3, Paragraph 2D. It looks like quite a bit in the length of the school year, the section E of these working conditions. And I don't know, I'd like to review Article 3, 2D before I'm voting on anything for sure, and which I will do, and you know, I don't know, I guess conceptually, taking all those concerns, but conceptually, having this vote, just having the vote is concerning to me, because I don't think it's something that we should do.
So if I can just speak to that, this school year, we didn't have a vote. However, we talked to the union and had an agreement, and then we voted on a calendar that started the Wednesday after Labor Day. There is going to be another local election the Tuesday after Labor Day, so that has to be a no-school day. So the current language in the contract we have to deviate from to have school start on the Wednesday after Labor Day, because there's a local election, and we've talked about not having school or the first day of school on a day of a local election. So we'd be looking at starting the Wednesday after Labor Day per the current contract. However, we have an agreement with the union that they would be willing to start the week before Labor Day, which I believe is more educationally sound. And you know, this is something that I wholeheartedly support this calendar. The contract language does not allow us to do this, but the union is open to entering into this agreement with us. So it's a collaborative nature. The calendar would be the school committee's calendar, and we can't do the calendar that I think is educationally sound without the side letter. The side letter is still 185 working days, still 5 professional development days, still 180 school days. It just changes them a little bit, and it gives us this language so that we could then, as a committee, propose the contract. But we can't do that without the language, which was done collaboratively at the bargaining table, which is required. The calendar still lies with the committee, and that is the committee's purview. However, to do this calendar, we need to do a side letter prior to that.
Respectfully, Dr. Vidala, and there is a tremendous amount of respect. Or the two parties can negotiate a collective bargaining agreement that removes the language as to when we can or cannot start a school year. We don't have to have this side letter that modifies the current language. We can modify the language in the contract so that it either doesn't exist, and then we can have this hopefully courteous relationship continuing year after year where we have this conversation, or there's language put into the collective bargaining agreement that I guess allows us to do what you are asking us to do first. And secondly, with regard to the primary in September, I don't know that there's going to be a primary in this local election. I mean, we would have to have more than 200% of candidates for any particular seat in order to have a primary. And it's not an automatic. We rarely have primaries district-wide when it comes to local elections these days, unfortunately, but that just seems to be the case. So I don't think we're going to know whether we need the Tuesday after Labor Day as a day out of school until sometime later this summer, and that may be too late to put a calendar together too. But we also don't have, I know Ms. Carpenter and some other members on the committee don't prefer not to have school when the elections are taking place, but we're not, I don't know that there's any obligation on our part. It may be a desire, you know, it may be a will of the committee and a will of the bargaining unit to have those days off, but I don't believe it's any sort of requirement on our part. And I'm not necessarily opposed to, I'd prefer to see the language that currently exists in the contract regarding the Labor Day directive, right, when school starts based on when Labor Day falls, removed. I'd prefer to see that and then allow all the parties to have the ability to do just what the two sides have done. Sit down together and say, what's best for us this year? And then...
And if I may, and I apologize, I don't want to interrupt you, that is the intention, and we are in collective bargaining, and the idea of this side letter is so that the committee has the ability to proactively do a calendar and let everybody know now, because this is the intention to include this in the CBA. However, that's not going to be ratified for some time. And knowing that we usually get the calendar out now, and there is a desire to do this, we'd like to be able to enter into this agreement as a tentative agreement that will likely go into the collective bargaining when it's ratified. However, this gives the committee the ability to put this out now to be proactive so everybody knows the start date of school. So, I mean, I can defer to the subcommittee who was part of the negotiations.
Before we do that, if I can just make one final point for now, I'm all, if you were putting a document before us that says we're removing this language and this is what we want, this is what we've negotiated, that all the parties are in agreement on for a school calendar, I'm much more comfortable with that.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Mr. Amico?
Through the chair to the committee, one of the things that, and I'm going to refer, because part of this was like, we can't really speak on it, but part of this was my idea as well. One of the things that really works well for me in Revere is knowing every year where the school year is going to start, regardless of where Labor Day falls. We always have school on the Monday is the principal meeting. Then we have kids on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Monday we're off. And then obviously we have, start school on that Tuesday. And they do make modifications if there is a state election as well. I think this to you, through the chair, Mr. Hockman, this helps the families, this helps the teachers, this helps the community know exactly, not the actual start date, but the days that we are going to start. It's that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off, Monday. And I think that's what we're trying to get to. And with the Juneteenth calendar at the end of the year, it is the 19th. You get 3 or 4 snow days. You're in school till June 30th. We have buildings without air conditioning. Teachers are going to tell you those are tough days at the end. And if we really want to get as much education as we want to get those before, testing or where we're going to be really using that classroom instruction time. Again, this was part of my idea in negotiations. I think that it really works for me, and it really works for my colleagues back there. And I think a lot of districts are going to probably go to something like this where, again, you don't know the start date, but you know the days that you're going to start, if that makes sense. Just by knowing that you're off that Friday, you're off that Monday, and so forth.
Thank you, Mr. Amico. Mr. Olympio?
Thank you, through the chair. I agree with Dr. Videla and Mr. Amico. Just the logic made sense to me. It made sense. I know there's a little bit of uneasiness setting precedents and things like that, but real practicality, it made sense. I didn't want to run into a situation where we are going to school June 22nd, 25th, 27th. So I would have to agree with Dr. Videla and Mr. Amico on this. Thank you.
And the final thing I'll say, and maybe we took too long to get to this, we fully intend this to be the contract language. And this would be agreed at the bargaining table. And the reason why it's coming before you is so that we can be proactive and not try to do the calendar with new language in April, May, June, when collective bargaining is completed. We have this done. We have an olive branch from the union that this is an agreement that we can live with. We're going to do it in 1 year, and then we can ratify language moving forward that allows the committee to start before Labor Day.
Okay. Any other comments on this item? I'll go to Mrs. Dunn, then to Mr. Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be honest, I understand what Mr. Hockman is saying, and the probable disconnect is it's a legal argument about contract law, and that's where his concern is, and I share that concern. I understand the intent of it, and I appreciate it, and this accomplishes what the two parties intended, but we have a contract in place, and it does offer some really what's the word? Some shifting of the terms and of the contract going forward. So making sure that everyone involved understands this side letter is limited to 1 year, and it does not represent any past practice. And it is nothing engraved in gold right now. That's it. It's to help with an issue on the calendar, which could have been taken care of through the current contract as well. My other question was, do we have confirmation from the city clerk that if a primary was to take place, that it would be the day after Labor Day? Because I know that there was quite a lot of concern this past year with the state election, or the federal election, when it was set the day after Labor Day. That was actually an unusual date, and a lot of people were very upset about it. So do we know for sure? This is different from maybe we don't need a primary, but I do think we need to make sure that that date is the actual date that would be used for a primary, just to make sure that we're taking the right day for professional development. And we would need to confirm it with the Secretary of State's office, or at least with our clerk, which may need, further clarification from the Secretary of State. So I would confirm that date before we implement this contract.
I believe that date is correct, but we'd have to confirm that.
Is it?
I believe so.
Okay. What's that? I always thought it was the second Tuesday of September, but that's, I don't know.
We'll have to confirm that.
Yeah, because this past year, there was a big controversy over it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that looks to be correct. Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Mr. Miko.
Thank you to the chair and to Mr. Hockman, and thank you, because I don't know contract law, but one of the things that we had done previously in another contract year is we had a side letter, and if you guys remember the unavoidables, that we desperately, both sides just wanted to, and I don't know if I'm talking out of turn here, if I can talk about it, but I'm going to, how both sides wanted to eliminate unavoidables. And what we did was we brought in a different set of sick time, PTO time, and it was on a side letter for 1 year, and it had an I believe it had an expiration date, a sunset clause, and I believe we've continued that since. So I do think, yeah, we're negotiating, but anytime we can agree on something and maybe get it for a trial basis where at the end of the year you can just say, okay, it didn't work for us or it didn't work for them, then there's no harm done. So that's how I feel about side letters. And again, I'm not an expert on contract law, but it's about we talk about politics, we talk about what we do. Negotiations is sometimes you have to meet in the middle and help both sides, and I think something like this on the calendar is very beneficial for everyone. Just as what we did a few years back with the unavoidables was we kind of brought it into a more modern type of PTO time, so for both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize if my tone was taken in a way that wasn't intended. And I thank Ms. Dunn for, sometimes I know I don't speak as clearly as I think, or it doesn't come out as clearly as I think it does.
Lawyers never do.
And that's really the basis of my concern is it's a legal concern. And this is a provision in the contract that has always bothered me. And I also understand that the benefits to having some, regularity, I guess, in some terms that allow us to develop expectations as to when school starts and when teachers need to be here and so forth. So with that, I mean, through the chair to Dr. Vidala, is it, and I'm not putting, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but is it your expectation that this language is going to replace the language in the collective bargaining agreement as it currently exists at some point?
This would be my proposed language. And I will say that both sides are very well represented. The city solicitor is there. The union is well represented. These have been, these documents have been gone through both parties on both sides. It's been approved by our solicitors, been approved by their side for 1 year. And then I would love to move forward with this, as a long-term solution to something where we can all get. Now, may some of the language change? It's collective bargaining. That could happen. But this is our proposal, and this is what we would like to see from the educational side, and this is something that the finance subcommittee has supported.
Yes, you still have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. In that case, it does lead to more questions. The professional development, the work year for the teachers will commence Monday before Labor Day, which will be Administrative Professional Development Day from 8 to no later than 11:30, with the remainder of the day for teacher use, and they shouldn't be required to work past 12:30. How does that comport with the current language?
So that is consistent with our current practice. It just happens to be on the Tuesday before Labor Day, and we'd move it to the Monday before Labor Day.
And then is that also the case? Is that also the case for those professional development days? Are those hours that are listed within here consistent?
Those are consistent, yep. And so those are consistent hours, and they're just spread out throughout the year instead of having the 3 days, and then we have 2 additional days this year, one on the November election day and one on the March day. So those 2 days would continue, and we would just move the other days. So we would still have the same 185-day work year, 180-day school year. It's just changing the dates that I believe work better from an educational standpoint.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Any other comments or questions on this item? Mr. Olympio?
I'd like to make a motion that Dr. Vidal sign the side letter of agreement with the teachers union regarding the school calendar.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Mr. Amico. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Hockman.
No.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. The next item is our annual baseball trip to the Cape. So as you know, our baseball team does an overnight trip to Cape Cod. They play several games in Barnstable around a little tournament, and it's quite an experience. It's very much chaperoned, very structured. Coach Betancourt and his team and the parents do a wonderful job. Great experience for the students, and so they would request approval of the school committee since it's an overnight trip. And we have Saturday, March 22nd to Sunday, March 23rd, and it has a whole itinerary in your packet, and then it's signed by Coach Betancourt and Principal Randall, as well as our athletic director, Coach D, and I've signed off as well. If the committee would approve that, again, we would appreciate a vote to support the baseball team.
Motion to approve the recommendation of the superintendent.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion by Mr. Hockman for approval, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. On the motion, Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to thank Coach Betancourt. When we get these requests, I appreciate it so much to see the itinerary of exactly what's going to go on. It really gives me a lot of confidence in approving the field trip because we have so much information right in front of us, and if you could please tell him that I appreciate that. I know on other field trips people do that as well, and it's really very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Roll call. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure that the team and the boosters and Coach Betancourt was very much appreciative of that vote. And the final item on the superintendent's report is we had a discussion last week about the budget and the center school. And so I have a packet for you today. The following items were requested: district enrollment and class size, noting the center school students, breakdown of potential elementary reductions, a facilities list with completed items and timeline, and a community meeting to be scheduled at a time to be determined. So in your packet that you received, we have the district enrollment. So there's a colorful handout that Dr. Higgins made for us. And so the green bars that you see, I think this is page 2, looks like this. The green bars that you see are the current enrollment this year at each school. So the McCarthy is 375, Carroll 641, South 438. These are K-5 numbers. Welch 428, West 251, and Brown 377. And you'll see the number of center school students that are distributed throughout the district in orange. We have 100 at the McCarthy, 98 at the Carroll, 81 at the South, 59 at the Welch, 9 at the West, 10 at the Brown. These are students that were enrolled at the center school in the previous school year, 23-24, and now are enrolled at these schools, 24-25. On the following page, you see a bigger grid. This is just sort of the white, has a couple highlights on it. This is each school. It has the number of students and the number of homerooms per class, and you can see the distribution. You might see a number that's noted slightly below the number of general ed students, and that might be students who are in a special program. So we take them out because that doesn't impact the size of the general ed class. And you'll notice that our class sizes range from the smallest class size of 15, the largest class size of 25. All of those are within the contractual limits. But the average class size is at the bottom of each one. And for each grade, the average class size is either 21 or 22 students. So district-wide, we have an average class size in the elementary schools of 22 students per classroom. So there's a lot of information there. I know that was something that was asked, as part of the impact. I can pause there if there are any enrollment questions before we jump in. There was some, and the next part would be some budgetary things. Were there any questions on the enrollment? Okay, I'll move on to the budget. We can always circle back to that. There was a question about the budget when the center school, bringing the center school to full capacity, having the 23.5 FTEs, and then additional budgets impacted with the team chair, an OT, a speech pathologist, music, and health. So that was a total cost of $2.25 million for the center school. That was discussed at the last meeting. There was a question if we reduced the other elementary schools. So I have a tiered reductions of where there are some additional members that could be reallocated. So we do the reductions to the elementary class size. This isn't necessarily what we would recommend for the budget, but just to get a ballpark, if we were to reduce the other 7 elementary schools to maximize class size, reduce reading and counseling support, reduce ELL and special ed support, we would take 23.5 FTEs, reallocate them. That would reduce the budget by approximately $1.5 million. So that was just a comparison of the center school budget and reductions that could be done. So that was a question that was asked. The final document you have is sort of the cover page. And we asked Jim Politano, our new facilities director, to give us a real update on the center school. What is the work that has been done? What do we expect for the timelines? What still needs to be done? So there is a great deal of work that has been done. So we take a look at some of these pictures, and believe it or not, there's a lot of work that you can see encompassed in here. These floors were done last summer. They were old tiles that were abated, and the whole first floor and second floor, all the classrooms and common areas were redone. So that was asbestos abatement that was done in the summer of '24. So we have these cabinets here that were sanded and painted, and so now they're going to be white. We have a drop ceiling, so you have the old ceiling tiles here. You'll see the drop ceiling. New tiles and new LED lights will be put in. If we look at the bottom picture here, you notice that there's one plug here. These walls used to have chalkboards and built-ins and things like that. You'll notice that they've all been stripped away, sanded, mud, plaster, all of that has been done. And then you'll see new painting here. So we have these are Higgins colors. So we have every other room has an accent wall of this nice Peabody blue or a nice orange that is center school orange. You notice that the door is white. It just brightens it up. You notice a lot of electrical being done here at the bottom. So a lot of work being done. The vents and things like that were painted a blue that was a little off-putting, so this is more of a neutral color, and again, that's a color that's found here at the Higgins. And so all of this work is being done, and so there's quite a bit of work. The classrooms will look different. New furniture is being ordered, whiteboards, and things like that. There are a couple items that were brought up to our attention that we would like to discuss. This was mentioned at the facilities subcommittee, the building and grounds subcommittee meeting yesterday, and I'll defer to Mr. Hockman for that as well. But there are a couple items, particularly one with the roof that has just come to light. We're seeing now that there's some melting going on. We're seeing more leaks, so we definitely have to address some roof issues. We are able to add these electrical outlets. However, the electrical service, as was described to us, is going to need to move from a 600 amp service to an 800 amp service. And there's some lead time on some of the units that need to be put in and some of the work that needs to be done outside on the poles coming into the building. So there's some concerns about timelines around that electrical service and the upgrade for the service. Right now, we're currently operating in the annex, and it's working within the current service. However, the upgrade of the service with some of the lead time that we need is a concern. That impacts our ability to upgrade the kitchen units. There's some abatement that needs to be done in the kitchen, which can be done when students aren't in there. We don't find that to be the problem. However, the electrical service impacting some of the kitchen equipment and then some of the roof activity has brought to us as a concern. And so, we would like to discuss that tonight. And I could defer to either the mayor or Mr. Hockman about what was discussed at the facilities subcommittee meeting or the building and grounds meeting, before we move on. But I wanted to provide this sort of overview because there is a lot of great work being done, and I don't want people to think that it's not being done. However, I think we want to do this right, and we want to do this in a way where we can bring everybody back to a good facility with the proper timelines. So I think that would need to be discussed further.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. I think, Dr. Vidal, you gave a great summary of that. It's terrific to see the pictures. I certainly have been aware that there's been a great deal of work taking place in the building. I know a number of us have been in there and seen it. However, to actually now show some pictures of work that's taking place is great to see. Yes, I have been very outspoken and bold in terms of and trying to be very positive that we're going to be able to get everything complete to open up the school year in September. But there's always been concerns about once we start doing some of the work that there'll be more work that's required. And I certainly want to make sure that we're doing the right type of work for this building so that when it does reopen, that we're not still dealing with problems. And certainly lead time is still a factor in terms of ordering materials and supplies, and there's a whole bunch of other factors. The upgrade in the electrical system is very much a big issue here, as well as the roof work, which needs to be done and can't be done right now because of the snow. But so, that is a discussion that we're going to have in terms of what the future holds for the center school. I think we all agree that it's going to be an elementary school. We all enjoy and appreciate the neighborhood elementary schools, but it is a real concern if we can have this building ready to open in September. And my feeling has always been that I don't want to continue down this course where we're planning on opening in September, then all of a sudden come June, July, we're in big trouble. And I don't think that's fair to families. I don't think that's fair to the students, the teachers. And I want to make a decision where we know and can let people know where we stand, what the concerns are, and then make an early decision. Our facilities director has commented that his feeling is that we're taking a great risk by focusing in on this September. And I just don't want to make a mistake. I don't think that's fair to anybody. I'm going to have to explain to some people that, because I was very open that I believe fully that we would get this work done by September, but I don't want to make a mistake and not do the work that we need. There's been some additional work that really we weren't planning to the individual classrooms. Now every classroom is going to receive some significant attention. That wasn't the plan initially, but now that we've been doing work to some of the classrooms, we felt to do all of the classrooms was the right way to go, and that'll make a real difference. We also want to meet with our teachers and staff there so they can see what the building is, have a discussion with them. But it is, unfortunately, a real decision that we're going to have to make, and one that I feel very bad about, but one that I think is very much necessary. And I'd rather have this discussion now than in June or July. I think that would be a grave disservice to the neighborhood, to our teachers and staff, and I kind of feel like a decision would have to be made in the next 2 or 3 weeks to really let people know where things stand. So. Not a great topic that I really wanted to discuss because it is something that I'll have to explain to people, but it is something that, again, I don't want to make a mistake for the long term, because I want the center school to look good, to have the right work done, to have the mechanicals completed, where that school is set up very nicely for years to come. Ms. Stockman probably gave you some of what your report is going to be, but this has been a topic that we've all been working on, and certainly this has been front and center for me. So I'll turn it over to you and to give your report or whatever your comments are, Ms. Stockman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Vidala. Thank you for providing the details and the transparency that everybody deserves in this difficult conversation. We as a committee, the administration, the bargaining units, all want the center school to reopen as a elementary school, and it will reopen as an elementary school in the Emerson Park neighborhood. The meeting that we had yesterday raised some questions as to when that's going to happen. The new facilities director brought to our attention some issues that developed both as the project went on and were unforeseen because they weren't visible at the time that we developed the scope of this project. Some of the issues that have developed, originally the kitchen wasn't part of this project, and it now is, thankfully, because it desperately needed to be upgraded. There are some abatement issues that are required in that section of the building that we couldn't allow to occur while people are in that building. We currently do have integrated preschool in the annex, and he feels in his professional opinion that the abatement work in that kitchen area should not take place while those young students and those staff members are in the building, and that's certainly understandable. There's also been some developments with regard to this winter, which has been a little, I guess we're lower than average in snowfall, but it seems like we've gotten a fair amount of snow recently in the last couple of weeks. And then also with the cold weather that developed after that and freezing that's taken place, that I think has compromised the roof at the annex significantly, that was unforeseen, and that looks like that's going to be the scope of the work at the center school is going to broaden to include some work in the roof in the annex. It would be irresponsible, as the mayor and Dr. Vidala said, for us to say we've completed this project and allow this school to open when there's unsafe conditions that we know about. So what I'd like to do is, as the mayor said, we'll know a little bit more over the course of the next few weeks. I'd like to schedule a community meeting for March 19th. No, we're going to go for the Wednesday. I have a conflict on that Tuesday, if it's okay. And if that's not a date that's okay, if the committee wishes to offer alternative dates, this week so that we can schedule this by the end of this week. But I'm going to tentatively schedule it for the 19th of March at the Higgins, here in the Higgins Middle School in the auditorium. I believe the facilities director will be on site for that meeting. I assume that we'll have some leadership from various bargaining units on site, city councilors, Dr. Vidala, of course, Mayor Betancourt, and we can talk about if there are any other personnel needed for that meeting. Maybe is 6 p.m. reasonable?
For the meeting on the, proposed meeting on the
19th?
19th? That sounds,
Oh, you have a Mr. Blake, is 6 p.m. reasonable? So let's put it on for March 19 at 6 p.m. here in the Higgins Middle School auditorium. If any members of the public or the center school community have any questions or concerns that they'd like to have addressed at that meeting and want to provide us with those questions or concerns beforehand, please reach out to Dr. Vidala or his office and present those. Obviously, we'll have question and answer opportunities during the course of that meeting if you're not able to present us with your questions or concerns in advance. We do hope to be able to inform the school district in and around the March 19th meeting what our intentions are relative to the center school. I would expect that we would have those intentions voted on and decided by our the school committee meeting immediately after that March 19th meeting. That's my hope and expectation.
thank you, Mr. Hockman. I think that's a good summary. Open it up for any questions, comments. Mrs. Carpenter.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, some comments. First of all, with these new developments of issues, is there any impact to the current preschool this school year and the following school year?
So no, we don't anticipate any change to the operations. The intention, when we originally were looking at this whole move, we were looking to move the preschool maybe to Centennial Ave. We talked about a bunch of different things. When we decided to finally settle on the center, that was going to be their new home, and that was going to be where they stay. We said that we were only going to move them once. This new development, we certainly, I know that Mr. Blake was over there today, and Jim Politano. The leaking is something that's new, so we're certainly doing that. But we don't believe any of the other items will impact the operations or the ability to have them operate this year or next year. The additional work on the electrical will be to expand, and we wouldn't be able to have, say, 300 or 400 students in the building, but we can still operate with the smaller footprint. And then all of those items that Mr. Hockman talked about will be happening over the summer when the preschool is not running, and they'll be ready to be up and running. The final pieces of the kitchen and things like that may spill over into the fall would not operate under the annex. So we'll be able to do all the annex work in the summer, and they'll be ready to reopen for that portion of the building again for September of 25 for preschool only.
Okay. Yeah, that was my concern, because some of the comments were that work right now couldn't be done while there's students in the building, and we do have students in the building. Roof leaking, so my concern is, where is that leak? I will say it is extremely disappointing to hear that we do have to consider a decision that sounds like it's very much out of our hands. We just had a conversation about, how important it was to all of us to open the school, and then to have this happen. To say I'm extremely disappointed is an understatement. I think that this is probably one of the first times, I think, that I've been involved in a situation where our construction, our building, our planning isn't on time. And it's very different to not be on time and not to have things completed the way that we thought they would be. So I'm very interested to hear some more about the details of how this happened, and how we weren't prepared. And I do understand that things happen. I do. You know, most of us have been involved in some type of construction and there's delays. But I will say for the most part in Peabody, we haven't experienced that. We've heard a lot of on time and under budget with a lot of our buildings, and we've been through a lot of construction projects. So this is disappointing to say the least. I look forward to more information, and you know, I'm sorry that this is possibly happening to all of the families that wanted to return to the center for the next school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. One other item I did want to mention, because it pertains very much to the work that was done, is we have a whole new team in now. There was retirements during the course of the school year, and a whole new team has come in, and so there was a lot of new things that were brought forward by the new group that came in. And I think this winter has exposed some other additional problems that we didn't foresee. So, and there's a number of other items that, but ultimately, this is on me and the work we've done. So I'll get more details on this. Mr. Olympio.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Hockman, for that report and all that you've done through, you know, that process of communicating with the public. But to echo, you know, the mayor's sentiments, what's done is done, and it is very disappointing, but I can't imagine us having tough phone calls or conversations in June or something that could disrupt the learning process in the fall. So it sounds like we'll hear what the public has to say, and maybe some things come to light in the next 2 to 3 weeks, but it just seems like to me that the conservative approach, if there really, it seems like there's some significant doubt that I would not want to be calling families in June and July, or if we push through and something disrupts the learning process, you know, just disrupts the school year, that would be very catastrophic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Olympio. Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm really sorry to hear about this too, because I hate to see people go through that type of anguish about what are we going to do and can we open in time. But I would like to make a couple of suggestions. One would be, as far as the cafeteria, could the abatement be done over the summer and the cafeteria not be operational for the first half of the year with the new equipment to go in the fall after the abatement is done, and that the students could have lunch delivered to the building for the first half of the year? It's a suggestion. It would allow us to open the building and students to be placed in there. Second suggestion, one of the concerns parents expressed was the reason they didn't want to go back to the center was because they didn't want their children to have another move, and then they were afraid they'd have another move, especially for 5th grade students, which would be the current 4th grade. Looking at the numbers here, we have 56 4th grade students. They would be next year's 5th grade students. Look into letting them stay at the school they're currently in and bringing back kindergarten 1, 2, and 3. I don't know what the number of kindergarten students would be next year in September. However, you're going to have to limit it to 48 students anyway, because if we're only going to have 2 classrooms per grade, that's 48 students. Right now, if you were to put all our students back in the center school as it will be reconfigured, we have 68 kindergarten students who would attend the center. There's 20 students that would need to be dispersed somewhere else, or you'd need 3 kindergarten classes, and you don't have that space to begin with now with the new configuration. So I'm suggesting take a look at the numbers again. We do need to look at redistricting, and perhaps there is different areas where students could be sent to a closer elementary school, or I don't know who would want to go for the open enrollment. I don't know if you would have 20 students or more in one grade, But we need to adjust these numbers anyway when the building opens, so take a look at them now and be able to make the decision about letting that lower number of students attend the school. And if you don't have a 5th grade at the center school, that opens up 2 classrooms. Maybe the library doesn't get opened immediately. We've moved an entire school a phase at a time over 2 years. We did it at the Welch. You could do it at the center. It's not great, but it can work. I do think it's important to open that building. I know that the electrical is probably a huge issue because that's the full building. Concentrate on that. Find out what the lead time is. I think Mr. Politano is a really, really good facilities director. And I trust what he's saying and what he's doing. And I also think that we could do this if you concentrate on that and the abatement of whatever you have to get out of the cafeteria, or the kitchen. I should be specific, get it out of the kitchen. If the new furniture isn't delivered, deliver it over Christmas vacation. Everybody comes back in January, yahoo, it's great. That would work. And you could do it all at once. The classroom picture looked wonderful. And I actually sent an email to Mr. Politano yesterday thanking him and asking if he was the person who picked Peabody Blue for the wall in the classroom. He told me yes. He also said it's every other room is gold. He didn't use the word orange, Mr. Hockman, so check it out. But I think he did a great job picking Peabody Blue, and he explained how he did it. So he understands. I think he understands the school. I think he understands our hopes for that building. And I do think if you did it in phases, as we've done before, we could open it. It won't be perfect. It won't be perfect in September, but it would be operational. We need to take some of the stress off the other schools because parents have been concerned about their classrooms. Yes, the classrooms are at the maximum that we allow, but we all know it's been proven the value of lower-sized classrooms. We're not doing that right now because the other schools are carrying the center school students, and it's impacting the whole district. So I don't think we can wait another year. I really don't. I don't think we need to. But I think if you look at it and concentrate on 2 big things. The roof, Welch is completely redone, and honestly, we're still waiting to fix that roof. I do not know what is wrong with roofs. It's a statewide problem. MSBA is doing a study on roofs. Just don't put the ceiling tiles up yet. Fix the roof, spray paint the leaks. When the water's gone, we know where to fix it. But there's a lot that really could be done. And I actually would even say if we need to bring in additional people to help with some of the work, I would say that might be money very well spent to be able to meet our deadline and get the students in there. So that's just my opinion, but you got it, so there we go.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Mr. Miko?
To the chair, thank you, Ms. Dunn, for your optimism and support. Thank you, through the chair, to Mr. Hockman for the meeting that you ran yesterday. Honestly, when I logged on to call into the meeting, I wasn't there, but I was disappointed, I was angered, I was frustrated, but for the kids, you know, and for the parents. But then as we got into it a little bit more and we listened to Mr. Politano's description of the work that has been done and challenges that we do face, and then, you know, it was like I was jinxed. I was driving, I left my house this morning and I saw all the puddles on James Street, and I just thought, you know, I'm glad my house is pitched, and boy, you know, the new leaks at the center and any other building that has a flat roof, you know, and we're not out of it yet. We've got some rain coming tonight and Thursday, and and there's going to be some challenges across the region here, and I hope no one's really impacted. But it does seem like the center was, and again, I'm just frustrated for the kids, and but for me, I have to take the emotion out of it, which is hard, but you know, I want to have a safe place for our kids to return to, and as much as I want to push for opening and getting that ready as soon as possible for August, we do have professionals who do what they do, and Mr. Napolitano and his crew, and you know, I have to go with what the professionals tell me. I'm one of those guys where if the doctor tells you to do this, you do it. If your attorney tells you to do this, you do this. If your accountant tells you to do something, you do it. You know, that's why we have professionals. So hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll hear a little bit more. But if we can open, I want to get this out as soon as possible to our community because it's important to them. It's important to us. I know I'll be working with Councilor Daigle in our neighborhood, along with Mr. Hockman, because these are people we see, you know, every day. You know, we see them at the park. We see them, you know, at our 4th of July fun days. You know, these are, you know, we know these kids, we know these parents, and it hurts extra when you live in the neighborhood, and it's really out of our hands, as someone said earlier. So, but if we can have those meetings scheduled as soon as possible, and let's hope for the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, thank you. And just want to close this out, I think. I did want to recognize Councilor Daigle, who is with us tonight and was also at the Building and Grounds meeting yesterday and has been at the forefront on this issue, seeking information, pushing for the reopening of the center school the whole way, as I think we all are. And Ms. Dunn, you know, really brought out a lot of emotional thoughts that I think we share as a committee, and I certainly share with you. And if it wasn't for that, that hope, I guess, that community meeting might be a little bit earlier than March 19th. You know, we're trying to push it out as far as we can, where it's responsible to make a decision. But I do also want to caution everybody out there, with the information that we presently have, if we had to vote on this today, it would not be to reopen the center school in September. I hope that changes over the course of the next 3 weeks, but I'm not terribly optimistic that it will.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Thank you, everybody, for that discussion. That was an important discussion. Thank you, everybody, for weighing in.
Superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report complete. Thank you, Dr. Vidala. Public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak? Microphone is open. Seeing nobody, we'd open it up. Anybody online that would like to join us, Dr. Vidala?
We have a couple people online. If anyone would like to speak, they could raise their hand. Seeing none.
Okay. Next we'll go, we do not have any written communications today under item number 7. Item number 8, subcommittee reports. Let's run through those, please. First, education, Mr. Miko.
Great, thank you. Through the chair, quickly, we had Ms. Randall and Mr. Quist here earlier, and we voted on the program studies for next year at Peabody Veterans Memorial High School, and they had a great presentation, and we're really excited about the programs for next year. And also locally, our neighbors in Lynn, they were able to defeat and vote down a proposal of an increase of 400 plus students to one of the charter schools in Lynn, and I think that's very, very important. I'm urging the state, I'm urging us, school committee, community, charter schools aren't evil, but they don't play by the same rules as public schools do. Every student that goes to a charter school is taking funding from our schools. They have different rules that they work by. So I'm just saying through the chair here to our committee, buyer beware on our end. We need to be vigilant because as of right now, we have a shortfall in state funding that's coming here. And if charter schools expand, that shortfall is going to be even greater. And as an educator, as a parent, and as a school committee member, We need to literally fight for every dollar that we get here in the city of Peabody for our students.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Finance, Mr. Olympio?
Yes, we have a meeting tomorrow night, 6 o'clock with Unit A. Look forward to it. That is all.
Thank you. School safety?
Nothing new to report.
Athletics and wellness?
Thank you.
Mr. Hockman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had a very successful winter sports season. I think we're in the playoffs in some certain sports as we speak. We also had a track and field student athlete for shot put, and I forget what else he threw. What? Discus, and a gentleman by the name of Alex Jackson, who actually played baseball for me when he was 13, signed a letter of intent to go to Division I, University of Virginia. And I think he finished, did he win the state championship as well? So we're going to need to have a sign created and a ceremony near his residence so that we can put that up. But what I'd like to do, I wanted to do it for this meeting, but we had some other things to address. For our next school committee meeting, if we can get some of the student athletes from our winter sports here, particularly from teams that are celebrating league championships. There are a number of them, and then maybe some individuals. Maybe we start bringing seniors in and recognizing them as they finish their sports season, so that we can thank them for representing our school and our district as honorably and well as they do.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Great idea. And yeah, our sports programs continue to excel. Our athletes' track program is tops in the state. Not only Alex Jackson, who's just amazing, but I also believe that we had another state champion in the long jump, Evan Bedard, who's an amazing athlete himself. So yeah, let's celebrate those excellent student athletes and get them in here. So great, thank you, Mr. Hockman. Next, quality and standards, Mrs. Dunn.
Nothing to report this evening. However, we do have some work ahead of us with the graduation requirement, and I know we have a couple of other pending policies, so we'll be meeting soon. Thank you.
Parent and student advisory boards, any update, Mrs. Dunn?
We have a parent advisory board meeting this Thursday, the 27th, here at 7 p.m. at Higgins. The topics are, of course, the center school and citywide PTO, also to get a question regarding recreation programs at the schools. So that'll be at 7.
Thank you. Okay, anything further on building and grounds with Hockman?
Oh, we've said too much already.
Okay. Special Education Subcommittee, Mr. Olympio?
Nothing new to report.
Thank you. City Council Legislative Delegation, Mrs. Carpenter?
Nothing to report.
Okay, nothing on redistricting, Mr. Hockman. And Performing Arts, anything, Mr. Swanson?
Yes, quickly. Trying to know how the volume is here. The Performing Arts is entering the Drama Fest season. They're going to be going to Norwood this week for the preliminary rounds. And so we wish them luck. Hopefully we'll be seeing them as another award-winning performance come in front of us as well. Good luck.
Outstanding. Thank you, Mr. Swanson. And, okay, new business handled in the regular course. Our next regularly scheduled school committee meeting is Tuesday, March 11, 2025, 7 p.m. right here in the auditorium here at the library at the Higgins Middle School. Thank you, everybody, for an important meeting. Appreciate everybody's work.